Hi, it's Peter here. Is the 8-25mm f4 Pro and the 20mm f1.4 Pro best combination for travel photography? Let's find out. And it's also an interesting combination because 8-25mm is the last lens that has Olympus branding and the 20mm is the first lens that has only OM system branding. So in that sense, it's also very interesting to find out how these two lenses work on a travel. I had a short trip to Copenhagen and let's go through some images and talk about the lens and why I made the image and why I chose that particular lens. The main thing was that during the day I had the 8-25 and then when it got dark after the sun has set, during the blue hour I used the 20mm lens mostly. I started my day of photography from the Little Mermaid in Copenhagen. It's a very famous statue that is inspired from H.C. Andersen, a famous writer, author from Denmark. And of course, when you go into a very famous site, you want to have that postcard image, that cliche that everybody else is making, and it's totally fine. I think you should do that. I didn't do that this time because I've been here before and I do have images of the mermaid, so I didn't bother take the image everybody else is taking. The second thing was to think about is how do the tourists behave, and was just sitting around and enjoying the beautiful weather. And of course, people are taking selfies and, or someone is taking a photograph of you standing in front of the statue, and that's, I was here type of images, and those are really nice. But of course, making an image of someone taking an image of the statue or selfie is also a bit of a cliche. It's nothing special anymore. Everybody does that. And I took this image and I liked the hat. That was something that caught my eye. And, I always look for something like this. Of course, a man with a hat, it's not extraordinary, but it still looked pretty nice. But the image that I took or was able to make wasn't really that spectacular. And it's a bit too busy. Of course, there are layers. You got the man, you got the statue, and then you got the canal, and then you have the factories in behind. So there is some kind of a contrast, but it's not a very spectacular image. And, continue to look for that image that I could make. And then I saw this. And I made this image. And it's, I don't know if you get the point. You have a mermaid, no legs, and then these legs, It's kind of, contrast between these two. And, of course, the statue is only the upper part, and then the lady with the legs is only the lower part. So that's also kind of like a combination. And also the third thing is that this statue is actually inspired by a ballet and it was sponsored by don't remember the name of the guy, but he was, the owner of Carlsberg beer factory. And he ordered this and it's about a story of a mermaid that climbs on the rock and looks at the dream prince, if that is on the shore. So I was kind of thinking that, okay, these legs are the dream legs for her, so she can walk to the dream prince. I don't know if that's any of a story, but I like the idea of lower part of the woman here and then the upper part of the mermaid to kind of combine things. It was a good start, and I was pretty happy to come up with this. And of course, you need to have this right person in front of the statue in order to make this image. And it's a bit cropped because the 25mm focal length that I used on the 8-25 wasn't really long enough, so I had to crop the image a bit. But I don't, mind cropping if that makes your image better. Of course, you will do that. I realized that I used the 25mm quite a lot on that 8-25 end, and it's funny that we very often use the far ends of zoom lenses. I don't know where that comes from, because we don't have to, but that's what I've heard that many of us do. And then I was walking back downtown Helsinki, downtown Copenhagen, and saw the Anglican church. And I think what makes this image interesting are three things. First of all, of course, the church looks really interesting. I like the shape and all the structure in it. And the light was from the perfect direction, because then you have some shadow on the side, and then the other side has some bright light, and that makes the shape more visible. And then I saw these four people, most likely a family, started walking on top of this hill. It's a kind of like a fortress that is over there, or it has been a fortress. Of course, when you see something like this, like these people in the top, you need to wait for them to be in a good position. If they are like in front of each other, it doesn't look good, the image, most likely. So when they're spread out, you might have a better image. And if someone is doing something, funny position or anything, showing something, that could add up. And I was pretty happy with this. And black and white made this, to my eye, a bit better than a color image. And that's why I also used the mermaid image as a black and white. So that wasn't intended, but I did. And that's something that I, continued doing was black and white. And then on this one, the 8mm came to the rescue. I think this just kind of screams a real wide angle, ultra wide angle, so you can see the coffee that's spilled from the tipped off mug. This is part of my set of images. I've photographed, these coffee mugs all over the place, and it's part of one of my series of images, and that's why I took this. You normally have used a standard lens for these, but this I think worked very well with 8mm, so that the front, the spilled coffee looks a lot bigger than it actually is, and then it's also the brightest part of the image. I cropped this also from the top a bit because there was too much bright sky that was a bit distracting. Then I also saw this under this bridge. This looks a bit strange to my eye. I kind of like it, but it doesn't fit my style at all. The subject is and all the settings, but this one is better like this with the colors. The reason is that you have this yellowish color broken bottle. The label on the bottle is yellow or orange, and then you have the biker in the back and the car that are similar colors, and also the building. Black and white, this wouldn't work. It could work black and white if there was someone, a car, a bike, a pedestrian, or a person standing in here somewhere. But since there isn't, and there wasn't too many people going about, so then that's why I just took the image, and without waiting this time. The 8mm on this I think works very well. You have the bottle quite close and quite big, and then you still have the scenery in the back, but it's not too distracting. And it's an HDR. It's made up 2 images because it was quite dark inside or under the bridge and really bright outside, so I need to make a composite image, and that's why the colors are a bit off. But it's kind of cinematic look into this, especially if I make it 16:9, like a movie scene in some way, waiting for something to happen. I think this is an interesting image, even though it doesn't fit my style or any other images that I've ever made. But I will save it just for the sake of it if I ever start doing something about or something like this style in the future. You never know what happens. I might get a second image by accident, and this might start a new way of editing images or presenting them. We never know. If it doesn't, no problem. But I kind of like it, even though it doesn't fit. And this one is made with 11mm focal length. This is in front of the Anglican church that we saw earlier, and it has a statue of Winston Churchill in front. I think it's called the Churchill Park where this is, and I think the composition is quite nice. The statue is quite close, and then we have the tree, and then we have the church, and also here the light that came was really nice, and it was a pretty harsh light, and that's why I also chose black and white, because black and white looks better. Or when it's harsh light, black and white looks better than color images. And there's a fun fact about this statue. If you look at it like Churchill is looking down, the reason is that he's looking for his cigar. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. And I think it makes it kind of funny story about the statue. But the reason I took it was the composition. I really like the composition and how these elements are placed on this. And I'm very happy with this image, even though it's kind of like a cliche in a way, but still I like the way the ultra wide angle worked on this image. And then when it started to get darker, I used more the 20mm f1.4 lens because it's faster and more convenient to carry around when it gets dark and there's a lot of people around, in this area there's a lot of bars and a lot of drunk people, and it's easier just to have one lens. Even though I started this area with the 8-25 when it was brighter before the sunset. The reason I didn't make that many images with the 20mm is that I was waiting for the blue hour, and then of course there was other photographers, and especially this guy. I was talking to him for a couple of hours at least about photography, and he was a tourist from Thunder Bay, or he was a Canadian, and he lived in Thunder Bay, and he was on his way to conduct a tour in Morocco, so he was just photographing and enjoying Copenhagen. Really nice and sunny day, or sunny evening in this case. And we were both waiting for the blue hour, and, I made some images beforehand, and, I planned these images and I knew the spot. I've been here before, but never at a time where the sun is setting in a perfect place so that the evening sun will lit all these beautiful buildings on Nyhamn, where there is a lot of bars and restaurants in front, and artificial light and dark blue sky during the blue hour. And that was what I was waiting for. And I started with the 8-25, but of course when it started to getting darker, I used a 20 millimeter f1.4 lens because it was a perfect focal length for this. Earlier the 8-25 was better because I could get the reflections from this side a bit better, but the 20 millimeter worked really well for these. My evening shots were mainly during the blue hour inside this area, and I used a 20 millimeter a bit more. And when I went back to the hotel, I took a few images that I saw, but I was kind of tired. I've been walking all day since morning all the way up to after sunset late at night, so I was a bit tired. I wasn't really in the mood of thinking anymore, so I just headed to hotel and get some good night's sleep. But I took a few images on my way because I saw some interesting things, and always be alert and look around, even though you kind of like, now I'm done. I don't think you ever are. You always have to be alert and look around. But all in all, I say that this lens combination worked really well for me, and I think this is going to be something that I will bring on my trips when I don't have any trips planned right now. But yeah, maybe I do plan a few trips. And also another thing that I realized is that it really boosts up your creativity when you go to a new place. Even though I've been to Copenhagen before, but it was still refreshing because cities, they evolve, they change all the time. There's been a lot of new buildings around since I was there last time on this area. I mean, so that it kind of inspires to see new things, and you see a bit different perspective. When you walk, on your familiar streets in your hometown or home area or wherever you are, you don't see things because they're too familiar to you. But when you go out, travel somewhere, it doesn't have to be abroad. It can be the city next to you somewhere, and you just start to see more because it at least for me, works very well to go to a totally not foreign, but a strange place, not strange, but a different place that I haven't been that many times. It really boosts up your creativity, and having these two lenses was a good choice for me. Partly it was planned because I knew the Nyhamn that I was going there, but of course the other images was just random stuff that I saw. But the main goal was to grab those night shots because I knew from the weather forecast that it's going to be a great weather, and the sun was setting in the right position, so it was the right time to be there. That's partly because I chose these two lenses because I knew that they're going to work. But I think I will start using the 8-25 more for my street photography and try to learn a bit more how to get that really wide angle look and still get those images interesting. And if you're interested in evening photography and night photography, you might want to watch that video. I will also put a link in the description, and I also have made videos about these two lenses, so if you want to watch those two, they are in the description down below. Find out more about the technical stuff about the lenses, specs and image quality and that. This was more about the experience with these two lenses and how they fit in my workflow when I do travel photography. And here I have some more videos for you to watch. Usually I have one, but now I put some more because there are some interesting videos that you might want to watch. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.